Reimagine products. Here's an example. Chuck Hull invented 3D printing. He thought about the way objects are made today with CNC tools. If you know about CNC tools, what do? They subtract. They take a big piece of metal and they subtract it down to something new. It's very expensive. He said, what if we could add? And he looked at an inkjet printer and he said, what if an inkjet printer could spew out plastic instead of ink? And boom, he created a 3D printer. So now someone can make a custom cast for their hand. They can make an entire car. Customization becomes the norm. And then someone else reimagined and said, I could make a hand for a child whose hand never grew, and I could release that through open source, and everybody can make a hand for a child around the world for pennies. And someone reimagined again and said, we don't have to just make plastic, we can make bone. And they're making bones for people whose skulls have been crashed in. And they make an ear, an entire ear that actually hears with a printer. Reimagine. We've had radio-controlled airplanes for years. But then with GPS and better computers and stability and GoPro cameras, people said, hey, we can build drones. And what is the first thing they did? They simply recreated the old world. Instead of crop dusters, now we have robotic drone crop dusters. But then people reimagined. And they said, hey, we could help the farmer. Instead of the farmer walking through the field to look at his crops, we could use infrared cameras and tell him where the crops weren't growing. We could reimagine. Or my favorite one, instead of having people in the stores figuring out the stock, there's now a drone that flies through stores at night and analyzes the stock and the planogram and refills the orders. That's reimagining. Or satellites. Satellites forever have been made by hand, right? Now, what are they making satellites out of? Cell phones. They're taking cell phones and making satellites this big and putting 10 of them up, and they don't care if they break because they don't have to make them by hand. Don't just recreate. Reimagine. Reimagine what you can do with all this new technology.